Welcome to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast.
You?
West Highland Way winner, Rebecca Hormann. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm feeling better than I was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We always ask our guests to give a wee introduction about themselves, but let me plant a seed. Last July, I was up in Blair Athol at the Highlander Backyard Ultra, and I said to Mike Raffin, "Who the hell is that?" He said, "That's Rebecca Hormann. If she gets so many yards today, she'll be in the Swiss Backyard Ultra team." So I know that, and I know you've done a couple other spectacular things in the last 12 months. But for our listeners and for me, who is Rebecca Hormann? What's your running background?
To be honest with you, I don't have the extensive running background that a lot of ultra runners have. I've always done sports. Growing up, I'd played soccer or football, as you guys would call it, back in the States where I grew up. And after I left America, I moved to Spain. I lived there for about 5 years. I was playing soccer over there. And then I was traveling around Asia for a while, and I decided to sign up for a half marathon. And that was in Bangkok, of all places. I just, thought I'll sign up for this half marathon. I'll run it. It will be that one running thing that I do. Because you know how everyone's like, they're going to do a half, they're going to do a marathon as like a bucket list thing. So I'll do a half marathon. It'll be the most difficult thing I ever do in the running world. And I that was it. So I trained for it while I was traveling around Asia. So like really warm weather training, quite tricky. I ran it quite an average time. It started at 3 a.m. And it was just, it was quite painful. I remember suffering quite a bit from that half. Then I just stopped running. I was like, that's it. I've done it. I've done the half marathon. That's what I wanted to do. COVID hit. I ended up in Northern Ireland, of all places. And then I started running again because there was nothing else that we could do, really. So I would like run up and down the coastline a little bit every day. And I would just add miles on a little bit more. And then ultimately I ran my first marathon by myself around Belfast. And then it kind of took off from there, really. I figured out what ultras were, and then, here we are.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that snapshot of your running journey. Can I ask, what year was the Bangkok half marathon?
The Bangkok half marathon was 2019, I think. And then my first ultra was in 2021.
Okay. We always ask, this is a Young Hearts Run Free first. Whenever anybody mentions football, open brackets, soccer, close brackets, we always ask, what position did you play?
I played, so when I played 11-a-side, I played centre mid or a left back. But then I stopped playing 11-a-side. I started playing 5-a-side, so football sala, which is normally like on, it's in a court normally, indoor, outdoor. And I would play like basically an attacking position. But it's different because there's only 5 players, so you're always rotating around.
A lot of sprinting in 5-a-side. And
yeah,
same rules, ball no higher than the boards. Is it the same? The ball goes no higher than the boards in 5-a-side.
Yeah. And then it's mainly like stepping on the ball. So it's a lot of like really technical, fast movements. But yeah, lots of sprinting. So yeah.
Favorite football player?
Oh, see, so I'm out of the football world now. But I went to the Women's World Cup years ago when it was in France. Because the US women's team was, they still are, but just incredible. Alex Morgan, obviously an Alex Morgan fan. If you know who she is, I hope you know who she is.
Yeah, brilliant.
But then, if you ask me the typical like Neymar or Messi or Ronaldo or whatever, I'd probably say Messi.
It's a good choice out of that 3. I like that. Yeah. And Alex Morgan changed the face of women's football.
Yeah, she did.
Was the face of women's football for a long, long time. So brilliant. thank you very much. First female soccer person that's been able to actually go have that conversation with. So thank you very much for that. And you've mentioned a number of places. What's the accent? What is the accent?
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to put this back on you. What do you pick up from this one, from the accent?
Oh, that's what I've been trying to figure out. When you mentioned America, and then I know that you've ran for Switzerland or represented Switzerland, but it's hard to pin down. It's like there's a whole thing going on in there. So I'm not getting any Irish from you, but yeah, I'll go with them. I'm not sure what part of America, but that's what I would go with. So
yeah,
give us a brief, if it can be brief, a history of your globetrotting. Where have you been?
So so I was born in the States. I'm from Philly, so East Coast. So people would say we kind of have more of a neutral accent, if that's a thing. Like no Southern twang or anything like that. And we're quite Canada, so I get Canadian a lot. People think I'm Canadian, or they're just trying to not offend me, so they guess I'm Canadian. My mum is Swiss Chilean, so I've got family kind of all over the place. So when we grew up, me and my siblings, we would spend part of the year in Chile, we'd spend part of the year in Switzerland, traveling around Europe a little bit, and we were homeschooled, so we could kind of do that and just bop about. And then when I left, I lived in Spain for a while, like I said, and then I was in Asia for a bit. So I did a lot of kind of traveling around Southeast Asia, and then moved to Northern Ireland where I spent some time, which is funny because a lot of people, when they listen to me, they think there's an Irish like twang. But you haven't heard that, which is
I'm not getting that. Where about in Northern Ireland? Was it Belfast you were based?
Yeah, I lived in Belfast. So I went to Ulster University. I did my master's over there.
Okay, brilliant. And then where are you right now on the planet?
Manchester,
which is going to be the focus of many people's attention. Well, a Manchester band are about to be the focus of many people's attention, with Oasis getting back together soon. So
yeah.
So and how long have you lived in Manchester?
About 2 years now.
Okay, you're going to stay there for a bit?
I can't predict the future, but for the time being.
Brilliant, I love it. It's like you've got that itchy feet, just going to go and see what happens.
Yeah, I think, and I know this is going to make me sound like I know I'm still young. I feel like I'm getting older faster, but like as I get older, I feel the need to settle down a bit more and have a bit more of a base, as opposed to when I was in my 20s. I was happy, up and about, restarting from zero and just seeing what happens. So, yeah, I don't know. I might stay quite a while longer, or I might feel the need to move, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Right. Everybody listening in is going to be thinking, John, you're going to ask the questions about the West Highland Way. We'll get to that just in a wee minute. But are you currently, or have you been a member of, a running club? Do you have a coach?
No, I don't have a coach. Which, yeah, I know that you get a mix, like a mixed pot, with that. Don't have a coach. I've never had a coach. I've always considered it. But I think I train by feel so much, that I would really struggle with a coach. But I've always said that if there was a race that was kind of a bit different from the standard stuff you get in the UK, and I really needed some specific training and fine tuning and somebody who knew the score, then I would definitely be seeking someone out. And then what was the other half of that question?
Are you a member of a running club?
No, I'm not. When I lived in Northern Ireland, I did run with Barf. I don't know if you know. Yeah, you're nodding at me.
Only from what I've seen on the screen, Barf, which let me do this, the Belfast Association of Rock Climbers and Fell.
Yeah.
Barf, which is a lot of people do Barf when they go running as well.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I ran with them for a while, but kind of like I'd show up here and there, but that was it. After I left, I have this thing where I try and join a running club about every 6 months to a year. I'll get in touch. I'll probably show up at a training, and then you'll never hear from me again. So
That's okay. That's okay. They're getting their club fees. They'll be quite happy. They'll be quite happy, I'm sure. So before we talk about the West Highland Way, you've mentioned it's been quite recent that you're coming into the sort of world of ultras and backyard ultras too. So there's a whole mix of stuff in there, but backyard ultras are there's some amazing things happening just now. The world record, I think, has just been smashed, isn't it? So I seen you, as I said, up at the Highlander, but I know you've been to Rasselbach, you've been to Suffolk. Do you want to say a wee bit about that format and how that appeals to you?
Yeah, you say how it appeals to me. It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's all right, and then sometimes I absolutely hate it. It's a massive love-hate relationship with backyards. And I look back and I'm like, I don't know how. I think I've ran 7 now. And I'm like, I don't know why I've ran 7. But I think so. I mean, I'm sure your listeners know what a backyard is, but it's a last man standing, isn't it? So you run 4 miles every hour on the hour, and you have to be on that start line. And everybody has their own strategy of how to run it. So you get your runners who are running it in 30 minutes, and then you get your runners like myself who tend to run in the 50-minute marks. I think what's really cool about backyards, and also horrible about backyards, is that it's a tangible improvement. So whereas if you run a point-to-point race, you might run fast one year, but the weather was great that year. But the next year you win the race, but the weather was shit and it took you longer. So you can't necessarily chart that improvement. But with backyard, it is, if you've ran more yards, clearly there's been some improvement or something was right that day. But yeah, so I ran, my first was Rasselbach. And the reason I ran it was actually because of someone Karen Nickel. She kind of got me to backyard. And then I think the first couple of backyards I had that like, ooh, I can do more. Because my first one I would say only, it's a huge accomplishment to do this. I did 20 yards. It's about 80 something or so miles. And I wasn't happy with it at all. So at first I was just trying to improve on it. And then this concept of running for the Swiss team existed. And then I was pursuing that. So sometimes, like right now, if you ask me to run a backyard, I'd say, no, I'm not running one again for the next year or so. Because I've ran one this year. I gave it my all. And I'm not ready to go in that headspace again because it's really mentally draining. And I think it's really difficult to recover mentally from a backyard. But at the same time, there is something addicting about it because you know when you are doing better and when you're getting something right, because you're going farther.
I get that, and you mentioned it is tangible. It's exactly that. And are you a data person? Do you like data?
Not really. No, I like hearing it, but I don't studying it. Like,
yeah, and thank you for mentioning Karen Nickel, because my opinion is, in the same way that Alex Morgan shaped women's football, Karen Nichol's had a massive impact on the women's backyard, certainly in the UK. Massive impact. So thank you very much for mentioning Karen. And I mentioned that I saw you up at Blair Athol. What got me, I think I was there. Maybe you'd seen the start of 2 or 3 yards. You walked out every single time. Everybody else was jogging on. You just walked out every time. So is that always part of your strategy, or is that dependent on the course?
No, I think since my second backyard, I do that. And I kind of stole it off of John Stalker. So my second backyard was Suffolk. So obviously Suffolk in the UK is the biggest backyard right now. And, it's this year, obviously it didn't go as far as previous years, but normally you get some really, really big names there. And so I was there, and John Stalker was there that year, and I saw him at the back walking his way out. And I thought, right, we'll give it a go. We'll try this strategy. And then I kept doing it. I walk out probably about a half mile, and then I'll walk in. And that's how I started running them. It works for me. I think it helps me walking out. It helps me stay calm. Also, it allows me to eat as I'm walking out. And yeah, it just becomes part of my pacing. And I think it's a good reminder to run your own race, because I think a lot of people, you panic. You do this in any situation. You panic when they're moving faster than you, in your head, and you're like, oh no, I have to go. I need to move. And it's easy to do that in a backyard, and then suddenly you're running too fast, and that's not how you've prepared for it. So I think it's always a good reminder that it's my race, my pace, which was something that was one of my things in the West Highland Way. So yeah, I always do that. And then walking in, a lot of the time, it's also just bringing me back down. And if I want to sleep, for example, it's just bringing my heart rate back down. So making it easier for me to just knock out if I need to. But yeah, it's funny you say that, because a lot of people on the West Highland Way, they recognize me from Blair Athol. And that's what they mentioned to me. They were like, the walking, and I was like,
glad it's not just me then. Brilliant. Okay. Because you see, well, the thing is, what you've just described, Rebecca, is a feeling of calm and relax, and that's exactly what you look like, So, and also you've mentioned the West Highland Way. We will get to that shortly. But in the Highlander, again in Blair Athol, how do we say this? You never finished second. You were the assist. Yeah. Completing 150 miles, which is, congratulations on that. That's quite phenomenal. Was that enough? That was enough to get you into the Swiss team, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how did that feel, being in the Swiss team? Your mum must have been mega proud. Yeah?
Was, yeah. I think my dad was a bit more proud because he's a bit more enthusiastic on the sports end. But mum was always just like, I'll send her a message and she'll be, good job. Like, yeah, no, but it was fun because at World Champs, all of my like Swiss and Chilean side of the family, like the group chat was absolutely blowing up. They were all commenting, they were watching the live stream. So it was a really nice feeling that they were just proud of me for whatever happened. But yeah, Blair Athol, I don't know if you know the story behind it, but Thomas was the winner. And we had a chat pretty early on in the race, kind of when we realized that we would probably be some of the last people out there. I think we both kind of realized that. And we had a chat, and I basically said, because he needed the win to get on the UK team. And that's what he went there to do. He went there to get a spot on the UK team. And the Swiss team is not as competitive. Well, it hopefully will be this year, but it wasn't as competitive as the UK team numbers, because I think for the UK team, you were looking at early 40s, like 40 yards to get on the team at that point. But the Swiss team was a lot lower, like early 30s or something, to get a spot on the team. And so we had a chat, and I basically said, if I get I think I needed 32 to get on the Swiss team. I was basically like, if I get my 32 and I'm on the team, you take the win, and you get and we're both happy, aren't we? I got on the team, you got on your team, everyone's happy. We could have obviously fought it out and gone to 40 something yards, and both of us still get on the team, but I don't think either of us really wanted to do that day. We both had other stuff going on. I suffered a lot at that race. It was my first time hitting that mileage. I'd only ever done just over 100 miles before in a backyard setting. And I think I had some bad blisters as well. I think it rained a bit, and a lot of it's on grass, so your feet, they do get a lot more wet. So it's tough to deal with it and tough to keep them dry. But I remember the feeling afterwards, and I had a chat with Mike, because Mike was trying to like goat me on and like just be like, no, just one more, like, and I was just like, no, we've made a deal. I stand by that deal. Like, I want Thomas to know that he can trust me as a human being outside of, you know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, aside, you can trust me as a person. We've made this deal. Um, Today's not the day to be battling it to the finish. And I was just exhausted, to be honest with you. I remember not even being able to wait for him to finish the loop, which I felt bad for. I was gone. I was asleep.
No, you know what
It
though?
was,
Fair play. You mentioned that human side of stuff. You make a deal and you stick to your deal. You're not going to start playing stupid games later on. So, brilliant though, phenomenal, and to both achieve what you wanted to do and to do 150 miles. I love that you're saying the Swiss team is not that much. It's like early 30s. It's crazy mileage, man. Absolutely crazy mileage, but it's brilliant. And I love how the backyard scene has just blown up over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
yeah,
And you see new backyard ultras popping up all over the
definitely.
place as well. And then it wasn't even a month later, you were doing this thing called the Edam. What the hell is the Edam?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow, you know more about me than I do. Um, yeah, I think it was a 50 miler in South Wales, actually. Oh my gosh. Um, I actually deferred that race. It was just a race that I saw, and it's a Pegasus race, and they're lovely. Pegasus is, I don't know if you know Pegasus, but they're just such a lovely race group. They've got no cutoffs. They're super friendly. And it's just a course I thought it'd be quite cool. I think it's around Bridge Training Camp, which is like a military training ground, and the concept is cool. And I deferred it 2 years in a row. 1 year because I fell on the front bar of my bike and injured myself quite badly,
Okay.
and I couldn't run. And we'll leave that there. And then the next year, I think I was quite sick. But the race director, Reese, he was happy to defer me 2 years in a row. And then we got there, and I was like, I cannot not run this race this year. So I just went out to basically because I was like, I've wanted to do it, I need to do it, type of thing.
So a few weeks after doing 150 miles, you ran 50 miles in 9 hours, 48 minutes. So quite phenomenal,
Thank you.
brilliant. And there's been other stuff in there as well. The Winter Spine Challenger North, for instance. The summer spine is just finished. So the Winter Spine Challenger North, finishing second lady, finishing sixth overall. That was a good field as well in there. Is that the one Nikki Spinks? Was that the one that she won? Was
Yeah,
she
so Nikki's
was
won, yeah. And then me and Sam basically ran almost the entire race together and finished joint second.
amazing? We will get to the West Highland Way. How many times have I said that? Um, will you go back and do the full spine?
I would love to. And I did when entries came out. I did try to get an entry for it, but unfortunately, my Wi-Fi isn't good enough.
Oh
So,
no, sitting going round like that.
but not that bad. I at the time I haven't checked, but I was 30th on the wait list. So everyone was
Good.
like, "Well, there's hope. There's hope." But I I don't want to wait because I figure that I mean my logic goes if the next payment is due in October, that's when most people will decide they're not going to do it. So that's when
Mm,
you'd get a spot if you're going to get a spot. But I I wasn't going to wait that long to know because there's so many other amazing races out there that I can
yeah,
do. The spine's always going to be there. And I think I said this to someone not long afterwards, but you know that feeling when you think you want something, but then when you get it or you don't get it is when you know whether you
mm,
actually wanted it or not. Um, and my feeling when I was on the wait list for the spine was, all right, but whatever, no
yeah,
biggies. So I started questioning, is it the full spine I want to do, or is it the Pennine Way that I want to do? Um, which are two different things, two
yeah.
completely different things. So I was like, that's fine. I will make other plans for a winter race and then we'll revisit that later down the line. And it's also really expensive.
Yeah, but you're 100%. Well, I totally 100% agree with you. There's that reaction to getting in or not, and if you're absolutely gutted, you'll do everything you can to get in there. So, but if it doesn't do that, then you've made the right choice by not focusing on that. Let's go West Highland Way. Let's do it. We're about 30 minutes in, so maybe we should start talking about the West Highland Way. First question: when did the West Highland Way come on your radar?
I don't know. I think back and I'm like, I don't actually know when I figured out that this race existed. I've got a friend who actually, she ran the West Highland Way, Lisa Whitaker. She did a fantastic job. And yeah, I think honestly, she had such an incredible experience. I'm so pleased for her. But she's Scottish, but she lives in South Wales, and I've met her through running. And I think she might have mentioned it to me at one point. But I did, so I just put in for the ballot, just why not? And kind of like, yeah, it's a good race. You'll probably do it sometime, but I might not get in. And then I got in and I was like, you know what? Like, I've heard really good things about it. It's got a great reputation. You see bits and bobs on Instagram about these things, obviously. And I thought, yeah, we'll have a go. And obviously after I'd signed up for it, I kind of got a bit more involved in the community of it and the people. And I had, so because of Blair Athol, I knew some kind of Scottish runners through social media. And they would, be mentioning it, posting about it from the year prior, or that they were running it. So that the vibe was really, really good. But I don't remember when I first learned about it. Okay. It may very well have been just like a Google search, like 100 milers in June.
Yeah, let's give Lisa credit. We'll give it to Lisa. That Lisa mentioned it. We'll do that. So that email confirmation that normally lands about mid December, doesn't it? You get an email. Yeah, I think it is, because the ballot's November, so it's like mid December you get that email. So the next question is about your training. Did you train specifically for the West Highland Way from the start of the year, or was other things happening? What was your training like on the build up to last weekend?
I did no West Highland Way training, really. I take that back. Actually, I went on a recce. I recceed all but 20 miles of the West Highland Way over Easter, and that was it. I've kind of had a packed year, and it's not over yet. And one of the challenges that I've faced with training, that I've tried to kind of navigate, is how do you train for completely different races when they're back to back to back? What I mean by that is 3 weeks before West Highland Way, I ran a backyard ultra in Switzerland, which is night and day. It's compared to the West Highland Way. So how I didn't know, how do I train for a backyard that I wanted to win, and then run the West Highland Way 3 weeks later. So but what I knew about the West Highland Way, and especially after I recceed it, was quite runnable. I knew where the climbs were. I knew that, genuinely speaking, I could keep moving on that type of terrain. So I wasn't particularly worried to train specifically for it. But there were many moments where I was like, I don't know if this training is gonna, work for others.
What was the course like in Switzerland? The Whitaker backyard. What was the course like? Was it bumpy or?
It's quite hilly for a backyard. But it's all like hard packed forest path. Okay,
so you've not got much of that on the West Highland Way, not in the second half anyway.
No. No.
And you did, because it's a backyard, we've got to say 145.8 miles. We'll call it 140. Call it 146. But backyarders would say it's not 146. But that's 4 weeks before the West
3.
Highland Way Race. 3, sorry, yeah, 3 before the West Highland Way Race. So, are you a good recoverer? Is my next question.
That was what I was figuring out. So I kind of, God, I was terrified, honestly. I thought, right, I've got 3 weeks. So, and I had no idea, because it's a backyard, you don't know how far you're going to go. And I knew for a fact, out of all the races, I was like, I want to win this backyard, and I wanted to do in the 40s. I was willing to go to 48 hours. Really, that's kind of the number I had in my head. But as backyards go, you can't control that. But yes, I was like, I could be prepping for West Highland Way with 20 miles in my legs. I could be prepping for it with 200 miles in my legs. I don't know. But yeah, so I did 1 week of just recovery. So basically just sleeping and eating and no real running, a bit of gym work. And then I did a week of kind of a bit of moving, a bit of running. I think the longest run I went on was about 15 miles. And then I tapered for a week and didn't really do anything. So
it's a good formula. We should also say that you won that backyard ultra in Switzerland.
yeah.
Let's not gloss over that. You were the last person standing, which is last woman standing, which is brilliant. Well, congratulations on that. So that's your training plan, bringing you to the West Highland Way at the middle of June this year. Let's talk about, you mentioned that you've done a bit of a recce. So standing at Milngavie train station, 2 minutes to 1 on Saturday morning. What are you thinking? Are you there for the win? What are you thinking?
Absolutely not. No. I was there to cross the finish line. I had no idea what my legs were gonna do. Do you know what I mean? I was fully aware that I was 3 weeks off of a backyard. You know, I wasn't feeling bad or anything, but I was fully aware that at one point my body might just go, nope, sorry, you know, we're not here. And I was like, I was, you know, in my mind, I was, if that happens, I'll death march it to the finish. I don't care. I want to finish the race. Because to me, it was the bigger challenge of, can I do these back to back, really? So I was actually quite chill at the start line. I was worried about the weather. But that was like my main worry. It was, how am I going to, you know, navigate this weather? But I was quite relaxed because I was running the race. I wasn't there to compete. I wasn't there to do anything amazing. I was there to, you know, accomplish my personal challenge, which was literally all I had to do was cross the finish line within the time frame, and hopefully in a reasonable time. But yeah.
And let's take this opportunity now. I wouldn't forget this anyway, but let's do it now. Your crew, because the West Highland Way, you've got to be supported. Who was your crew on the day?
So my main crew member, I don't know, they kind of shared it quite evenly. So my partner, Jack, he was there crewing for me. And then I actually had a bit of a panic 2 weeks before. I was down a crew member. Just he wasn't able to crew for me. So I posted in the Facebook group and I was like, you know, is anybody a bit round to crew me? And of all people, Jarlath McKenna messages me and goes, you know, hey, Rebecca, I'm volunteering at registration. Would be happy to help you out afterwards. And I saw the message. I was like, sorry, excuse me? Like, because I had done a bit of my homework. And I was like, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, so yeah, such a blessing. So those are my 2 crew members. And it was fantastic. And then Mike Raffin was kind of like a bit of a virtual crew member. You know, so he got some voice notes, and obviously we spoke a little bit about the race. He's got a lot of knowledge to give on it. So I was in pretty good hands, to be honest with you.
And to give listeners context, Jarlath McKenna won the West Highland Way Race in 2024. So not a bad person to have in your corner, you know. So, and Jackie as well. Has Jackie got experience of running?
Jack, he runs. He doesn't run like he'll run a few ultras, but he's crewed me before, so he knows kind of my moods and what's going on in my head and whatnot. So
But
yeah,
that's a good mix of crew, isn't it? Good mix of
yeah.
crew. We might Raffin being the angel above as well, with jelly babies.
Yeah.
So
And literally he was on, Jelly Baby Hill, so he was, hanging out
yeah,
and watching
yeah.
above.
Brilliant. So fair play to Jarlath as well, jumping
Yeah.
in. It's maybe short notice. So that's brilliant. So we'll go back. Start line. Main objective, finish the race, feeling good.
Yeah.
See how it feels doing these big challenges back to back. So talk to me about how you were feeling. Let's go Milngavie to Drimmen, which is about 13 miles, and then on to Balmaha. You're over Connacht Covenant, the first sort of checkpoint. How's your body feeling at that point?
Can I just say this is fantastic because this is like how to process your race. Do you know what I mean? Like walk me through it. It's fantastic. Right. So first section, up to Connacht Hill, it's in the dark. And I just wanted to kind of phase out for that section. Because, and you'll hear me say this all the time, I hate the first 20, 30, 40, 50 miles of long races because it's kind of boring and you're not in the good stuff yet.
So can I just ask you there, jump in, sorry to do that. Are you a slow burner? Do you warm up? It take you that time to warm up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely. Backyards, I find the most boring things on the planet. God, because they just take so much time to, get into something interesting. But yeah, so I thought I'll just try and phase out. And then when I get to Connacht Hill, that should kind of wake me up because the sun should be rising, and then you see your crew. But yeah, so that first 20 miles or so, I was kind of in a bit of a running train. I ran a bit with Rory Campbell, who I know from Scotland 100, which I ran last year. He came second and I came third. Well, first female, third overall. And we never crossed paths, but we knew of each other because I was chasing him in the race. So this is the first time we really kind of chatted in person about it. But yeah, so I ran a bit with him and just kind of chilled, no rush. And so that bit was nice. But I got to Connacht Hill and I already knew my legs were not where they needed to be. So 20 miles already felt like 50 miles. Which is not a really good place to be when you've got a lot of.
Can you explain how that feels? Is that like heavy or is it calves?
I think of just a bit sore. So when, for example, say you're running a 50-mile race and you're getting towards the end of it and maybe you've got a descent and it, you feel it in your quads going down a hill because you've been hammering them up and down hills for 50 miles. That's how they felt already.
Okay. So you've still got 70 miles to go.
Yeah. So I was very aware of that and just kind of like I predicted. I knew something was going to happen. That it was always a gamble, but it happened a lot earlier than I thought it would happen. So kind of refueled there, quick pit stop, and then what was the next checkpoint after that?
You leave Balmaha and then you go to Rowerdennan. So you're a bit up and down, and that's sort of forest path.
Yeah.
Rowerdennan, and then you're on to Inversnaid, which is on the sort of the loch side. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the bit that I didn't recce. So I'd been told it was the technical bit. And then Mike was like, it's not technical. So it was good because it was new, but I couldn't hold a pace at all because I was already feeling like I had sore legs. The stop and go movement of going up a rock and then over a branch and whatnot, that I wasn't doing too well with that, so I slowed down quite a bit. And that's when I was really kind of struggling with with my stomach a little bit. And I almost fell in the loch once, which was great. Just thought it was ground, but it wasn't. So that was me halfway down the hill. But yeah, so that bit was probably just a mental battle of, I don't feel really good and it's really early on, but we just have to keep cracking on.
Do you know, have you looked at your splits? Have you looked at
I
the splits?
uh Actually I haven't. Have you looked at my splits?
I am right now. You were the fastest female on the loch side all day. Yeah. From
That's crazy.
Inversnaid you were 1:28:09 going along there. And then you're at the Beinglass Farm, which is a checkpoint again.
Yeah.
So, how did it feel? You mentioned back at the start, I don't know if you used the word concern, but aware of the weather,
Hmm.
what might be coming. And it did turn into be quite a muggy. There was a bit of cloud cover,
Yeah.
but I was just hanging around walking about, and it was muggy then, and it was warm then. When
Yeah.
you come out of the loch side, you've then got a bit of a climb up to what they call Dario's Post is there, and
Yeah.
then you've got a bit of a descent into Beinglass. How did it feel to get out of the loch side back onto better terrain? How
Yeah.
were you feeling there? But how were your legs feeling then?
I I was already like walking ascents at that point, because I just couldn't get the power in my legs, so I was already walking a lot of the ascents, at pace, obviously,
Hmm.
hiking quickly, but I was already walking them, but it was amazing because I felt so slow, along the loch. You know when you feel like you're just like, I'm just not getting any pace. I'm going so slow. I think one of my miles was like a 17-minute mile or something. Um, and so it felt so amazing to be like, can just get my legs turning, get a bit of
Mm.
move here. So I remember that just being like, yes, finally it's over. Like, we can get some runnable terrain here.
Okay, and then let's bring in food. Let's bring in nutrition. You've been to
Mhm.
Balmaha. You said you did a quick restock in there. What was your foods of choice? How were you getting energy in? What were you taking?
Uh, yeah, so I barely ate during West Highland Way. Barely ate anything. So had like a cis carb drink,
Hmm.
in one bottle and then just water in the other. And then I just had loads of snacks. So I love eating like pretzels, and like sweets and like chocolate covered raisins and stuff like that. Um, but at because there's like a a like a non-official checkpoint, what, like 12 miles in, I think.
That's gymming.
Um,
That's at
yeah,
gymming, yeah.
and my crew gave me a croissant, so I kind of ate that on the way. Um, but pretty much after like Conic Hill, I wasn't taking down any solids.
Fluids
Um,
after that, yeah.
really, really early on, I wasn't taking down solids.
Ah. And how was the weather affecting you? Because by the time you get to Beinglass, you're into the middle of the morning.
Yeah.
How was the weather affecting you? Were you feeling hot, or how were you doing with the sort of dehydration if that was happening?
Yeah, I don't think the weather really hit me until I was more out in the open near Ben Glass Farm. Um,
Hmm.
but like I was stomach wise, I was quite suffering, and that's not normally a thing for me. And I would probably say that was me not being able to eat was as a result of the warm weather.
Yeah.
Um, and what I did was any stream or anything like that, I would just stop and I'd dunk water all over me, over my legs, over my head. Anything, I would just stop and I'd just use that as a method to cool down. So yeah, so that was kind of my strategy, and I did that the entire race.
Yeah, brilliant.
Essentially,
It's a brilliant tip. You've got to cool. I've seen
yeah,
lots of people out there with ice. The
yeah,
Brody's store, yeah, the people using the bandanas and the arm sleeves, but Brody's store and sorry, Mike Raffin got me on Sunday morning and said, John, it's not tin drum, it's Tyne drum. So for Mike Raffin, I'm going to say it's Tyne drum. Brody's store at Tyne drum was doing an amazing sales on Calippos and Soleros, and not just for
yeah,
runners, but for
yeah,
get just crew and stuff as well. But
yeah,
so you can do anything you can to get cool, but a lot of people forget about the rivers and the streams that are there. So to be using that is clever. I saw you on the trail
Yeah.
You don't wear a backpack, do you? Do you wear a belt or two handhelds? What do you do?
Wearing a pack.
Were you wearing a pack? Must have been the same colour as your top.
It was
I don't know.
green.
Well, okay. Well, I should have noticed that. That's one of my favourite colours. Okay. What pack do you wear? What's the make?
So for this race, I wore a Salomon pack. But most of the time I wear just full craft kit.
Okay.
They sponsor me, so I get lots of kit from them. But no, for this one, I was wearing a Salomon.
Let's talk about sponsors. Perfect time to do it. Craft Kit. Where are they based?
So it's a Swedish company. So they're based in Sweden, and they've started. They're actually quite a bit in the States as well, but based in Sweden, and they've started kind of branching out more in the UK. So right now there's just a small group of us who are craft athletes, and then I've only joined the team earlier this year. So it's kind of just it's a bit new figuring it out. I think they're still kind of figuring out what the UK team is kind of going to look like in a sense.
Oh,
But yeah, no, honestly, like I love their stuff is really nice. It's super comfy. So I'm honestly loving working with them.
cool. And it's a new brand to me. New brand to me. But what we can do is we can get their website address and stick it in the show notes for people to to,
Absolutely,
to have
definitely, yeah.
to have a look at. Um, any other sponsors? What we're talking about? Anybody else that you get stuff from?
So Limitless Trails, it's a lovely running company down south. So I ran quite a few events with them. So I'm an ambassador for them, which is fabulous. And they're kind of linked with science and sport. So I get most of my nutrition from science and sport, which is great as well. Because it's easy. And I like their stuff. So yeah, it's been great. And that's also quite a new development for me as well.
Cool. So we can put all these in the show notes as well, and that'll be our advertising section for this episode completed. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Thank you. So we're at Beanglass Farm, and you're currently sitting in second place. Did you know you were sitting in second place?
I had no idea. Like I said, I the phrase in my head that I kept saying all race was my race, my pace.
Hmm.
And that was it. My race, my pace, whatever I wanted to do. Um, and I don't know if somehow the marshals got the memo, but a lot of the time when you're running and you're towards the pointy end of the field, they'll be like, "Oh, you're in, whatever position." I don't think anybody did that this time, which is great because if they had, then I would have automatically started putting pressure on myself, which wasn't the point. And my crew, Jack knows that about me, and I think he obviously told Jarlath, and they kept their mouths shut. They when we'll talk about this, but Bridge of Orkney, when I was right behind Alison, they didn't say anything to me at all. So yeah, I ran a beautifully oblivious race
Brilliant.
for most of it, and it was really nice. But it really let me run my race.
Cool. Because you then get to Ottertire,
Hmm.
okay, and then that's just a wee bit before, got to say, Tyne Drum, a wee bit before Tyne Drum, and then but the Tyne Drum you just go through. It's it's an established town village in
Hmm.
Scotland, but you just bypass it and you go through. So your next stop is Bridge of Orkney,
Yeah,
and from Tyne Drum to Bridge of Orkney, it should be 5-6 miles, something like that. But it's on decent trail
yeah,
again
yeah.
as well. And then you come into Bridge of Orkney, and you've just said there, you seen Alison. What
I
was?
didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't. Was Alison gone by the time you came in?
There. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. What were you taking any solids at Bridge of Orkney, or again was it just fluids?
I don't think I had any solids. So I had a coffee at Minglass Farm, and that's another story. Um, and
The floor is yours.
let's just say that from from that coffee to Octatire, I'm probably butchering the names. I had a very uncomfortable 8 or so miles.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had a full change when I
Yeah.
saw my crew. We'll leave it at that.
Let's call it GI. We'll call it GI issues, shall we? We'll go with that. And then get a full change. Full change makes you feel fresh as well.
It was fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, and we cracked on to Bridge of Orchy.
Okay. And then Bridge of Orchy, you're then approaching Mike Raffin next to see him.
Yeah.
Mike Raffin sits at 100 kilometres exact from the start. And he dishes out a jelly baby. What colour of jelly baby did you have? This is the detail people want to know.
Yeah. So he asked me beforehand, and I asked for something like a red themed, and he goes, no, you can have purple.
So he asks you what you want, and then gives you something different.
Yeah.
I love Mike. Brilliant. And then you're up and over to Inveronan Hotel. You come down to the tarmac, you hit Inveronan Hotel, and you then approach Victoria Bridge and up and onto Rannochmoor. Now, when you left Bridge of Orchy, you were in second place. When you arrived at Glencoe, about 10, 12 miles later, maybe-ish, something like that, you're in first. Explain Rannochmoor.
So it all happened on Jelly Baby Hill, actually.
Okay.
Mike witnessed it firsthand. I could see Mike, and I waved to him, and he waved back. And I approached him, and I was happy to tell him about all the issues that I had been having and how you didn't want to come close to me. And I was approaching him, and I saw her in front of me, and I just looked at him, and I just pointed, and he just nods. And I was just like, what is going on? Because I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. Like I said, I was doing my own race. So I got my jelly babies, and I cracked on, and then we turned around the corner, and I kind of pulled up next to her. We had a quick exchange. I could tell she wasn't faring too well. And I, I was like, come on, run with me. Let's get moving. Because we've all been there where you're suffering a little bit. And sometimes if you've got like a pace to match or legs to watch or something, it can get you moving again. But she wasn't having it. So I cracked on. So kind of top of Jelly Hill.
Okay, let me just interject there. I spoke with, I'm going to call her Ally. I know Alison. I spoke with Ally Sunday morning before the presentation, and she said, "What a lovely person you were when you passed," and that what you just described. You'd said to her, "Just tag on to the back of me, to help her along." So, real beautiful ultra running spirit shown and friendship and comradeship. So thank you very much for being like that. Thank you for being Rebecca. That was really nice. So
to be completely honest, I knew I don't know her. We only exchanged. She messaged me before the race, just to say good luck and whatnot, and we just had a really brief exchange. But I know that she has won the race 2 years consecutively. And as anyone would logically, I figured that she would be going for a third win in a row, because that is just an incredible achievement. 2 years in a row is fantastic. And I was all for it. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my goodness, like, yes, that's fantastic. So I was cheering her on from the get-go.
Brilliant.
And I was like, I'll see you soon, like when you catch up to me, because I've had every confidence that she's going to find her legs and she'll be by me in no time. But yeah, I know I spoke to her briefly after the race, and she had a tough one.
Yeah, she did, but she got it done. Done. So massive.
Really good still as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
massive kudos to Ally for getting that done. Yeah. Does that change your mindset though when you go in front?
So it obviously it's going to a little bit, just without you wanting it to. But the first thing I did, and I do this a lot in backyards, and I'm trying not to do it as much in point to points, because Mike is telling me that it's wasting time. But I sent a voice note to my crew, And obviously I was a bit shocked, but I just repeated out loud so I could hear it to myself as well. I just said, it's my race, my pace, my race, my pace. If she comes back and takes it back, fine. I'm not here to compete. I'm not here to race. I'm running my way. So yes, it's going to, because then, your crew's excited when they see Jarlath when I ran to the Bridge of Orkney. Oh my god, he was so happy. Like, he was just giddy with like, my goodness. And I was like, what's going on? So yes, there's always going to be my competitive side that's like, oh, whoa, this could happen. But I think I stayed quite grounded in, that's not why I'm here. If it happens, great, but that's not why I'm here today.
Okay. And then you come into, I'm trying to look, you come into Glencoe, you're looking at about a 12, no, it's longer, it's half an hour lead in Glencoe. Were you aware of that timings?
I was getting some voice notes here and there telling me that, like, I was creating space.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting messages, because one person would say one thing, another person would say another thing, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. So did you speak to me about Glencoe? Glencoe is quite a significant spot in the race, because you've got about a marathon left to go from there, and it's a good chance to get refueled and get all that, well, refueled, get more liquids in your case. But then you've got there's quite a slope down to the roadside and past King's House, and you're on your way to the Devil's Staircase. And I'm assuming you've wrecked this bit from what you said.
Thankfully,
You'd done all of that. How were you feeling then about, you're in first place, you're in first place? Was there the question in my head I'm going to ask it is, were you feeling hunted at that point? Or were you feeling comfy? You were still doing my race, my pace?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling hunted. I was feeling ready to finish. I was feeling, when you're kind of in the last leg, but the last leg is just so big. So you can taste the finish, but you can't taste the finish. I wasn't feeling hunted. I was fully aware that a marathon it's an entire race left. Still, anything can happen in a marathon. I don't know, somebody could come from behind Ally and,
yeah.
me. You never know. But no, I wasn't feeling hunted, because again, it, like, in my mind I had, if she passes, amazing on her.
You mentioned 3 weeks before you've done 145 miles, and you mentioned about coming off a Conic Hill, your legs were feeling a bit bleh. How's your legs feeling? How's your legs feeling in Glencoe?
Yes, great. It's a great question, that. So at one point in the race, I think about 50 miles in, because it was a slog. It was a slog to about the halfway point. And I hear that's actually quite normal for the West Highland Way. A lot of people say they struggle the first half and it gets better in the second. Maybe because it's a 1 a.m. start. I don't know. But it was a big slog. It was a mental challenge. Like, my crew kind of got me. I would have hung out at checkpoints a lot longer if it hadn't been for my crew just being like, right, crack on. At one point, I had this moment where I was like, the feeling in my legs matches the miles I've done. And then that kind of made me feel like, okay, this is right. This is correct. I feel the way I should feel. And then obviously, you run further and it gets, it gets worse. But at one point I stopped thinking about it. And then I was like, I don't think it's gotten worse. I think it just got worse really fast, really soon. And then it's kind of, accumulated the way it normally would. I don't know any science behind that. Could just be all in my head. But at one point, things just kind of matched up.
It's a difficult question to answer, the next one, but because you're only you can't. It's hard to compare yourself against other people. But do you handle pain well?
it depends where I'm at, like where my head's at. Do you know what I mean? If I want to, I can be an absolute like crybaby and a child about things. But I think there are people in this world who are good at suffering. That's a skill they have.
Definitely. That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm one of those people. I think I'm still learning to dig into suffering and lean into it in a way that you have to if you're going to succeed at these mammoth events that the ultra running world presents. But I think that I am better with suffering and pain than I was this time last year, for example.
Thank you very much for that. Because that's almost telling people it does change for you. It will be sore, but you get used to sore, and then it gets sore again. And my mind's going back to, I remember Courtney DeWalter talking about going to the pain cave. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I've got a chisel and I'm ready. And that changed that. I think Courtney's words changed the mindset for a lot of people. You know, and that's why I was asking that. So thank you very much for that. You've spoken about what we're now, or I'm referring to, as the GI issues, right? It's a setback. But were there any, that is also a physical setback, but was there any physical setbacks? How were your feet?
My feet were surprisingly good. So 3 weeks. So from the backyard, I did have some, I wouldn't say big blisters. My feet didn't suffer as much on the backyard, but I did have a couple blisters, and for lack of a better way to describe it, like blister skin that was still there. So there was still like pocket that could re-blister. So I knew that I would struggle with that, but they didn't look good, but they felt better than they looked. At one point, I'd changed my socks, and Jarlath just looked at my pinky toe and was like, "Oh!" And I was like, "No, just put the sock on. We crack on. Out of sight, out of mind." I didn't suffer feet wise, really.
Out of sight, out of mind. That's a tough person that can do that. Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about feet. How do you prep your feet for a race? Do you do like the moisturizer thing? Do you tape them? What do you do?
Yeah, I have. Sometimes I've taped my feet. So I taped my feet. I had them taped when I raced in Malaysia last November. Because I knew it was going to be really, really wet, and I wanted some extra protection on there. But normally I just dump a load of talcum powder on them, and every time I change my socks, dump a load more talcum powder on them. I don't seem to struggle too much with feet. I have sometimes, but no, I think I am not I'm not enough of a planner to be like, the weeks before a race, I'm going to put whatever on my feet every night. That's not me, honestly. I do it one night and then I forget about it. So it's powder.
And that's, again, foot related. What socks do you wear? What socks did you wear on race day?
I wore the socks that I happened to grab out of my drawer when I left my house, which were, Sports Direct Caramore brand.
Yep. Brilliant. I don't think we've ever tagged Sports Direct. This could be a first. Brilliant. Caramore as well, yeah?
Yeah, I used to wear them all the time before Craft sent me kit. And I don't know, that's just what happened to be that day.
Okay, and what was over the top of the socks? What shoes?
I was wearing some Craft shoes. I don't know the names, but they're like a lower drop shoe. I prefer like a low drop shoe. And yeah, just a half size bigger than I would normally wear as well, because I knew my feet would be swelling.
Same pair all day, or did you change?
Same pair all day.
Same socks all day?
No, I think I changed the socks 2 or 3 times.
The same kind, Caramore, or just whatever was there?
Yeah, same type, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Endeth the feet part. Okay, we got to the bottom of the Devil's Staircase. The Devil's Staircase sounds a big, hairy, scary thing. It's not really. It's a hill, you know. And you're saying you're power hiking ascents. Yeah. How did you find going up? How did you find going up the Devil's Staircase?
It was okay. I could still climb pretty well at that point.
Okay. And then coming over the top of there, you're then hit with that quad bashing descent into Kinlochleven. How was that?
Yeah, that was tough because I had climbed. Took me, because what was happening, the deeper and deeper I got in the race, which is quite normal, is if you stop for too long, your quads are going to take a bit of time to warm back up so they can move and you can turn your legs over. So it was slow gaining that momentum back. But by the time I had gotten off the track and onto a road section, I was able to move quite well. But yeah, that getting to the top and then kind of that starting that descent, that was rough.
Yeah. And is it getting hot at this point? Is the heat kicking in?
Yeah. So yeah, it was quite warm. So this section, again, you'll know the name of this. Coming into Glencoe, that long 10-12 mile section.
Rannochmere, yeah.
That one. That was the worst because there were no streams or really anything there. There are, but there are long bridges and you'd have to go down to them.
They're too far away to access, aren't they?
So I was just overheating that section. And it's a
totally exposed. There's no cover.
Yeah. And it's a longer section. So, I'm not able to cool down. I'm running low on liquids. So that was really, really tough. But my crew got a lot of like cold drinks and stuff for Glencoe. So I was feeling quite refreshed by the time I left. Well, as refreshed as you can be. And then I went back to the same thing, just in streams, water everywhere. I didn't suffer from the heat as much as I thought I would suffer. If the sun had been out, I think it would have been a different race for me. But because it's kind of overcast, because when the sun's out and it's shining on you, you're telling yourself it's hot, aren't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if it's overcast, that's not a message that my brain is sending. So I think in that sense, I was able to just almost put it out of mind, stay cool as much as I could. But a lot of the time I was getting in the rivers because I was telling myself, you need to stay cool. So yeah, kind of how it worked out.
You said it never affected you though, Rebecca, but you made it not affect you by doing that. That's good race management, isn't it?
My stomach, definitely. But mentally, it didn't really affect me.
Yeah. Okay. And then Kinlochleven's your sort of last major checkpoint.
Yeah.
How long were you there? Did you change your kit there again, or was it in and out?
It was pretty much in and out. I was ready to finish. I was getting quite fuzzy at that point because I hadn't been taking on any real solids.
Sorry, did you say fuzzy as in
fuzzy,
head?
Yeah, a bit kind of, a bit wobbly on the eyesight and just like I was mentally I was locked in, but I could, feel myself a bit like, ooh, like I need, when you need like sugars or nutrition or something in your body, kind of like that. So I tried to get like a few mangoes and whatnot down. And at this point I was drinking Lucozade. I was drinking Lucozade and water. But yeah, I went in, did bobbed in or whatever, sat down, ducked some water on my head, had some mangoes and cracked on. Because I also didn't want to have to go through the whole warm up my quads again process. Quite annoying that, yeah.
So you're very aware of your body. You're very aware of how your body is. If you sit too long, you're going to have to do that again. And, well, you actually get a chance to warm your body up quite soon with that climb up out of Kinlochleven. It's quite a challenge, isn't it? Yeah. And then, so you're then going across the Larigmore, which it appears that what they do is they drop a lot of big rocks on it every year. It's not the best terrain underfoot. Are you running that? Are you running that section?
I'm running the descents and the flats, and I'm walking the hills, or anything that looks like a hill. I was kind of in backyard mode at that point. If it looked like a hill, it was getting walked.
Okay. And then, I don't know if it feels like it's halfway across there. You come to Lundavra. Or here's another one, Lundavra. There's different pronunciations for it. Lundavra sounds quite grand, so we'll go with that. Right through there, take up some water.
Yeah, sat down for 2 seconds. I kind of emptied a lot of the stuff I was carrying because I wasn't eating it. What was the point in carrying it?
Yeah.
And Jalrith actually said it to me. He was kind of like, do you want to drop some weight? So I handed them a load of, just like sweets and stuff that I had been carrying probably for basically the whole race. And water. I think I had some strawberries or something there. And cracked on. I was ready to get it done.
How far from there is it? We're talking
I think
6,
it's
7
about
miles?
7 miles or so, but it's a long 7 miles.
It is. And then about 3 miles from there, then you must hit the fire track. Yeah. And then you've got that descent to the Braveheart car park, and you're going down and down and down and down. How were you feeling there? How were quads there?
So at that point, there was a lot of emotion. So I probably in the last 15 miles or so, I kept on having these because I was completely exhausted, and I was having these moments where I would kind of get short of breath. My reaction would be, I want to start crying. And then I'd be telling myself, no, like not yet. Now's not the time to cry. But there was a lot of just emotion hitting the track, and just trying to hold it together, to keep breathing correctly so I could actually keep pace. But it was a very painful downhill, and it just lasted forever. And then and everybody says, it's all the way, once you hit the track, it's downhill to the finish. It is not downhill to the finish.
No.
It's not. That's a lie. Don't listen to that, like, at all. And I hadn't recce'd to the finish. I had recce'd like to the bottom of the track because similar to when I ran Spine Challenge North, I didn't want to get to Kirkjeffholm until I had finished the race. Same with it. I didn't want to get to the Ben Nevis Center until I was finishing the race. It was that last road section that I was just like, this is horrible.
It's not. I drove it on Sunday. It's not much if you're driving, but if you've got 95 miles behind you, it's a bit longer. I don't know if you're aware of this. So you said you looked at your splits, but from Inversnaid, which is time and place 3, all the way through every other section, you were the fastest lady on every single section of that
No
course.
way.
So although you're saying it felt long, it's a long way to go, you were the fastest person on every single section from Inversnaid through Lundavra to the finish. Every single section. Yeah.
Completely,
So
I felt rough.
yeah. So, and then you've just described how it was running down to the Nevis Centre, and you mentioned about being emotional. But going in and running through that arch as First Lady, how did that feel?
I think like you kind of have to go back to the fact that I didn't run that race to win. I didn't run it to podium. And in fact, I've looked at the West Highland Way, and there are some really fast times on the West Highland Way. Incredibly fast times. And I'm not a fast runner. I'm not. I can't put down crazy fast times. And so because I kind of saw I kind of saw my abilities as here and the West Highland Way as here. As in like I can't run any of those times that people can set on that course. So it's not even a race, it wasn't even a goal to podium. It wasn't even something that I thought physically I could do. So I already look back on it. So it was kind of like amazing, but also like, nah, this isn't real. And I still look, when you look at a photo and you're kind of like, I'll look at a finisher photo and I'm just like, and I do this all the time. I've said this before. I look at photos and I'll be like, that's not me. I didn't do that. It was probably one of the most emotional finish lines I've had, because I was wrecked at the end of it. there's a finisher video where I kind of go down with my hands on my legs and I don't come back up, which is not normal for me. So yeah, there was a lot of emotion there and just kind of digesting what was happening. And I probably still haven't really digested it. But it was so nice having my crew at the finish line there. Because it's the people who have supported you along the way, especially with a race like the West Highland Way. They're the ones who you want to celebrate this with. So it was a really nice moment, but I'm processing it. Don't know.
Hey, we're only 4 days later. There's a lot of time still to go.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself on the West Highland Way?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can answer that question yet, to be honest with you.
It's okay.
Yeah, like I think it's a weird one because this year so far I've taken on some of the biggest races I've done so far this year have been completely different. So Spine Challenger North, that's one type of race. Backyard Ultra, completely different type of race. And then the West Highland Way is different in and of itself. And when you suffer in races, actually, this is my experience. I don't know if it's everyone else's experience, but when you suffer in races and then it finishes, you forget the suffering most of the time. So in forgetting that suffering, I think I always forget the ability to push through the suffering. So I always feel like I'm relearning the ability to overcome, even if I'm not relearning it, even if it's something I've already learned. But I feel like I'm always relearning it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And maybe I'll come back to you in a couple of months' time and you can maybe answer that question differently. But I'm sure there's been a lot. Talk about multidisciplined. The things you just described, the Spine Challenger North, the Backyard Ultra, the West Highland Way. Different disciplines require different skill sets, but you're bringing the same skill set. And what I would describe when you're talking about winning the West Highland Way, when I saw you, it was metronome. You were consistent. And it took me right back to watching you walking out of that corral at the backyard ultra. You were just relaxed, confident, doing things at your pace.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've said it yet. I probably have, but congratulations on not just winning the race, but on doing it your way. I think that's massive, because a lot of us get sucked into what the other people are doing because they're doing that and they're going faster and they're doing this. But to do it on your terms is quite fantastic. Can we speak about the presentation ceremony, 12 o'clock Sunday afternoon? How did you find that?
But what a lovely tradition, honestly. Like I don't know. I don't think I've ever been to another race that does that. I know it's, the other races do. But it was such a nice tradition. And I think it's so nice because you see everybody, on the course and at the start and whatnot. But when everybody's kind of together, runners and crew members and volunteers and whatnot, and all in the hall together, and the passing out of the goblets to every single person. I love this, the individual celebration of it.
Yeah.
So I was very tired and I was completely drained after sitting there for an hour. But no, I think it's such a wonderful tradition that I hope the West Highland Way never gets rid of that. So no,
Me too. It was quite brilliant, and I loved the 182 finishers.
Yeah.
And I love you were 19 hours and 2 minutes to take First Lady's place. We should give recognition to Gus Irvin, who won the race overall. But I love the bit that always gets me is when the first winner presents the goblet to the final winner. And this year that was Jordan Hunter. So Gus presented Jordan with his goblet. It's just a really, really special thing. But as you say, it's a long hour. Everybody's sitting there shattered, aren't they? You
Some
know?
people finish the race as well. Like, they're just sat there in their running kit, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I would just want to
Yeah.
get a shower and like.
Yes, people sitting eating McDonald's and just have loads of stuff going on. No, but it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Somebody listening to this, and I don't know if we were recording at the time or maybe it was before, Rebecca, but I'd mentioned about people doing 5Ks, 10Ks, and half marathons. Then they hear about these things called ultra marathons. That's maybe 30, 50 miles. And then they hear about the West Highland Way Race. What advice would you give to somebody thinking about doing the West Highland Way Race for the first time?
Recce the course, definitely. I would have ran that race completely differently if I hadn't known what was coming in the last marathon. Yeah, definitely recce the
Yeah,
course.
so
Put time.
get a foot on the route, most definitely. And we mentioned kit. You mentioned about the kit that you wore and I drilled into the socks and the shoes. What's your favourite bit of kit? What's the bit of kit that Rebecca Hormann always takes with her?
Ooh, I don't know. I think buffs are really versatile and useful.
100%.
Yeah, so I normally try to have one on me, whether that's like dunking it in water, carrying ice, whatever, headband. Normally I try to have a buff on me. I'm quite an unplanned, very keep it simple person. I've been known to show up to races with whatever is in the back of my car.
I've gathered that from you, Rebecca, throughout this chat. I've gathered that. But yeah, buff. Brilliant bit of kit. Brilliant kit. Okay. We're at the final two questions. And normally, I don't normally get to ask this one. This is normally Stephen's question.
Okay.
But I'm really glad I'm doing this one because you've been all over the shop on your travels. And they're going to ask you for a dialect dictionary word. And it's a word that you've picked up from any time in your life, a word or a phrase to go into the Young Hearts Run Free Dialect Dictionary. What are you going to put in?
I could give you loads. We'll keep it in English.
Up to you. It's up to you. We're multilingual here.
We'll keep it in English. We'll go back to, where I'm from. So in Philly, we have a word, and it's a really diverse word. You can basically use it for whatever you want. It's John. So it's JAWN. You say like that John over there, or that John last night was great. So it just basically means like whatever you want it to mean. Really, like that thing, that event, that person, that whatever you want. So
So it's not like food. It's not food. It's just whatever, anything. That John.
yeah.
I love
It's
that.
whatever you want it to be. So it's JAWN, and it's a Philly word.
Our first, a lot of first tonight. Our first Philly word going into the
There you go.
dialect dictionary. Thank you very much. And then we have our Young Hearts Run Free playlist, Buff collection playlist. I think it's volume 10 at present.
Yeah.
And we ask our guests to suggest a song or a track that they'd like to share with the Young Hearts Run Free listeners. What's Rebecca Hormann, West Highland Way winner 2025, going to put in?
Well, I actually want to know what track you've put in first, to be honest.
Oh, the track. Okay. Put me right on the spot. I'm trying to think. I am going to put in James and Tomorrow. James are one of my favourite bands. And the reason I'm saying Tomorrow is because Des Tinney, who did the Camino, he put in Sometimes by James. But that's the song I'm going to add in. So it's not often I get to add one in. So thank you. I'm going to put in James Tomorrow. And that's all about your dreams coming true tomorrow. That's what the song is about. So
I'll have to listen to it then. I will add, do you know the song Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry? Bit of like an old.
yeah. Good, do a bit of duck walking as well on the stage. That's what he does, isn't he? He does the duck walk when he's playing guitar. Yeah.
I wouldn't know. It's
Yeah.
for my time, but a lot of the time I pop on like, stuff like that. And I think it's a great song for anybody listening. If you've got like a technical downhill, pop that song on. It's great, honestly.
And you can also set yourself the challenge to get down the hill before the song finishes, because it's only about 2.5 minutes, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's not bad.
it's a short one. And for people who are saying, who the hell is Chuck Berry? It was also the song that Marty McFly sung in Back to the Future, the first one, when he went
Is
on
it?
yeah. He sang Johnny
Oh,
Be Good as well. So there you go. Bit of pop trivia. I love
thank you.
that. I love a sub 3-minute song and Johnny
I
Be
guess you
Good.
probably weren't thinking that you get a song like that from someone like me, but
No, I wasn't. But that's the beauty of human beings. Thank you very much.
mm,
Rebecca, we've been well over an hour and a half,
I can
but
talk.
we both can. We both can. But it's brilliant to talk about the West Highland Way. It's brilliant to speak to the West Highland Way winner. And what has been fantastic is speaking about the different, I'm going to say disciplines, but the different types of events that you've been taking part in and been very successful. And you're just getting started, really. There's lots to come. What's next, actually?
Yeah, so I like I've kind of been saying, this is all West Highland Way was part of a bigger challenge. So Whitaker Backyard, West Highland Way, and I've got another 104 weeks. So can I do it all? Is really the question. So yeah, so I'm kind of, I've got 4 weeks now, not 3 weeks. Yay! to sort that out, and then again cross that 100 finish line, and then a hard rest and reset. So yeah,
What is that next 100?
it's the Dragon 100 down in South Wales.
Bloody hell. Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay. You know what? Let's put a wee doorstop in, because I think you're going to come back sometime. I'd like to invite you back sometime in the future, because I've found this chat really entertaining. Also very, very informative. You've been very free and easy with your time. So thank you. Thank you so much for,
With you.
yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure people listening in, they'll love it, because it's about the West Highland Way, one of the iconic trails in Scotland. And you still get people going in a day. In one day, somebody done it. So it's going to be brilliant for people to listen in. And I think, as I say, you've been a great advert for trail running, for being a great sports person. We spoke about that time when you passed Ally and you're asking her to tag on. So all that lovely stuff. Brilliant for Jack and for Jarlath as well, to be part of Team Rebecca and to be successful. So well done again. Thank you very much for your time, Rebecca. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you.
Likewise, and thank you so much for having me on. It's been really fun. Yeah, help me process the race.